Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you for joining me again. November 12th, 2021. Just start by to share some couple of news and one breaking news on Eritrea. So let me start with the State Department on sanctioning uh, the Eritrean uh, government, Eritrean ruling party, and the Eritrean army. The United States is designating 6 targets associated with the Eritrean government and the ruling party pursuant to Executive Order EO 14046, which the President signed in September in response to the conflict in Ethiopia. Eritrea's destabilizing presence in Ethiopia is prolonging the conflict, posing a significant obstacle to a cessation of hostilities and threatening the integrity of the Ethiopian state. Credible accounts implicate Eritrean forces in serious human rights abuses, and the United States remains gravely concerned about the conduct of all parties to the conflict. Eritrean forces should immediately withdraw from Ethiopia. We welcome the diplomatic efforts by African Union High Representative Olusegun Obasanjo and urge the government of Ethiopia and the Tigray People Liberation Front (TPLF) to seize the opportunity to negotiate a cessation of hostilities without preconditions and commit to unhindered humanitarian access. Although today's designations are directed at the Eritrean government and the ruling party, the United States remains gravely concerned about the conduct of all parties to the conflict. We are not imposing sanctions at this time on elements aligned with the government of Ethiopia and the TPLF to allow time and space to see if these talks can make progress. If the parties fall if the parties fail to make meaningful progress, the United States stands ready to pursue additional sanctions, including against the government of Ethiopia and TPLF. Today's designation demonstrates that the United States will use all appropriate tools at our disposal to impose tangible cost on those prolonging the conflict and to promote an immediate end to the violence. This designation build up build upon the United States' previous actions to press the parties to move toward a cessation of hostilities and a peaceful resolution to the conflict. These measures are not directed at the people of Eritrea, Ethiopia, or the Greater Horn of Africa region. They are calibrated to impose costs on those prolonging the crisis. The United States Department of the Treasury has taken a series of steps to permit the continued flow of food, medicine, and humanitarian support to Eritrea, including issuing 3 general licenses and guidance currently with the announcement of Executive Order 14046 and additional guidance concurrent with this announcement. So that's from US State Department on sanctioning the Eritrean government, its ruling party, and uh, a couple of individuals. So Ethiopia is out, TPLF is out for now because they are waiting what the Obasanjo, you know, uh, mediation will produce. Obasanjo is again seen in Mekelle again for the second time. So he is busy to produce some tangible ceasefire or some kind of deal. So that's why Ethiopia and Tigray People Liberation Front is not included in this sanction. So let's see what entities and who are these individuals, plus some details from the Treasury, Department of the Treasury. The individuals and entities designated today are the Eritrean Defense Force, the People's Front for Democracy and Justice, and Abraha Kasa Nimariam, Hedri Trust, Hagos Gabrahiyot, W. Kidan, and Red Sea Trading Corporation. So these are the companies and the individuals targeted by the United States sanction today. The Eritrean Defense Force is the Eritrean military. The Eritrean Defense Force has been operating in northern Ethiopia amidst numerous reports of looting, sexual assault, killing civilians, and blocking humanitarian aid. EDF soldiers have been seen disguised in old Ethiopian military uniform, manning checkpoints, obstructing and occupying critical aid routes, and threatening medical staff. In one of the northern Ethiopia few operating hospitals. The EDF was designated today for being a government entity that has engaged in or whose members have engaged in activities that have contributed to the crisis in northern Ethiopia or have obstructed a ceasefire or peace process to resolve such crisis. Okay, the second entity is the People's Front for Democracy and Justice, PFDJ, led by Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki, is the sole legal political party in Eritrea. Isaias personally oversees the command and control of the Eritrean Defense Force, issuing order directly to EDF generals, making him ultimately responsible for the EDF role in contributing to the crisis in northern Ethiopia. The PFDJ was designated today for being a political party that has engaged in or whose members have engaged in activities that have contributed to the crisis in northern Ethiopia or have obstructed a ceasefire or peace process to resolve such crisis. Okay. From individuals, Abraha Kasa Nimariam or Kasa is the head of the Eritrean National Security Office. He was designated today for being or having been a leader, official, senior executive officer, or member of the board of directors of the government of Eritrea or its ruling PFDJ on or after November 1, 2020, where the leader, official, senior executive officer, or director is responsible for or complicit in or who has directly or indirectly engaged or attempted to engage in any activity contributing to the crisis in northern Ethiopia. Hydri Trust, Hydri, is the holding company of all PFDJ business, enterprises and was established by the PFDJ in 1994. HIDRI was designated today for being a political subdivision, agency, instrumentality of the government of Eritrea or its ruling People's Front for Democracy and Justice, and for being owned or controlled by PFDJ. Hagos Gabre Hiot W. Kidan or Gabre Hiot is the economic advisor to the PFDJ and the chief executive officer of the Red Sea Trading Corporation or RSTC. Gabrahiot was designated today for having materially assisted, sponsored, or provided financial, material, or technological support for or goods or services to or in support of the PFDJ. RSTC manages the property and the financial interests of the PFDJ, acts as its funder, and provides its business assistance. RSTC was designated today for being owned or controlled by Gabrahiot. So sanctions implication. What are the implications? As a result of today's action, all property and interests in property of the persons named above that are in the United States or in the possession or control of U.S. persons are blocked and must be reported to Office of Foreign Asset Control. So that is the sanctions. There's a lot of details, but if you are interested, you can check it out. U.S. Department of Treasury for what are these sanctions, what are the details of these sanctions. But the good thing is these sanctions does not involve humanitarian organizations dealing with Eritrea and Ethiopia and trading between Eritrea and Ethiopia. So it's just involve some individuals and companies responsible for the ongoing conflict in northern part of Ethiopia. Okay, the next one is about Secretary Anthony Blinken trip to Kenya, Nigeria, and Senegal, but not to Ethiopia. He just passed by Kenya. Ethiopia was number one before Abiy Ahmed, where Westerns, especially the United States officials, the first place to visit is Ethiopia before Abiy Ahmed created all these crises. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken will visit Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal from November 15, 2020, underscoring the depth and the breadth of our relationships with African partners. During the visit, the Secretary will advance U.S.-African collaboration on shared global priorities, including ending the COVID-19 pandemic and building back to a more inclusive global economy, combating the climate crisis, revitalizing our democracies, and advancing peace and security. Secretary Blinken will begin his trip in Nairobi, where he will meet with Kenya President Uhuru Kenyatta and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs Ambassador Rachel Omamo, affirming our strategic partnership with Kenya. The Secretary and representatives of the Kenya government will discuss our shared interest as members of the UN Security Council, including addressing regional security issues such as Ethiopia, Somalia, and Sudan. The Secretary will advance US-Kenya cooperation on ending COVID-19, improving clean energy access, and protecting the environment. The Secretary will underscore US support for a peaceful and inclusive Kenya election in 2022. Secretary Blinken will then travel to Abuja, where he will meet with President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, and Foreign Minister Geoffrey Oyama, and discuss furthering cooperation on global health security, expanding energy access and economic growth, and revitalizing democracy. The Secretary will deliver a speech on US-Africa policy in the capital of Africa's largest democracy. Additionally, the Secretary will engage with Nigerian entrepreneurs in the digital sector. The Secretary will conclude his trip in Dakar, where he will meet with President Macky Sall and Foreign Minister Aissata Tall Sall to reaffirm the close partnership between our two countries. Given President Sall's upcoming African Union chairmanship, Secretary Blinken looks forward to discuss regional issues and shared values. The Secretary will engage in events that highlight America's strong commercial relationship with Senegal, amplify the role of female Senegalese entrepreneurs, and showcase the U.S. partnership to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is Secretary Blinken's scheduled upcoming visit to Kenya, Senegal, and Nigeria. That's excluding Ethiopia. So that's it for now on the reading part. It's it's disappointing. Ethiopia is isolated globally, and it's not getting any attention when G20 meeting, G7 meeting, any global stage visit start with Ethiopia before. Now Ethiopia is in a very dangerous, very bad for its own citizen. Okay, let's share a couple of videos and end today's presentation.
Hello. Good afternoon, General. It's a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to Camp Lemonade and Combined Joint Task Force Headquarters.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure, David. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything that happens within Ethiopia is inextricably tied to the security, the safety of the rest of the region. When Ethiopia has an internal conflict that may make it decide to withdraw forces from Somalia, now you have 5 African Union countries that are also affected, and Somalia. You have the potential for violent extremist organizations to have greater activity there. We also see enduring conflicts or points of tension. The border conflict between Sudan and Ethiopia, that risks of that turning, or perhaps with the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam with the GERD, that it would change the calculus there. There is a risk that other countries may look at Ethiopia's internal focus as an opportunity to take something, whether it be a military action or stronger political action, when Ethiopia is not credibly able to either continue operations or negotiation.
In the event Addis Ababa falls,
what role can this base take? What role can the U.S. military take to deal with the impact of that fall? So a primary role for our command here is to be able to respond to crisis, and in particular to respond to crises that are associated with U.S. diplomatic missions across Africa, but in particular in East Africa. We have done an incredible amount of planning and preparation to be able to respond, to assist in evacuation, to reinforce an embassy, to do a larger scale evacuation if necessary, both for U.S. personnel, U.S. citizens or dual citizens, or those from other countries. The East African Response Force, the only U.S. crisis response force that is located on the continent of Africa, is part of our command and located here. So we bring capabilities together from each of our joint services and allies and partners to any sort of crisis. And Ethiopia is obviously very concerning for us.
Okay, then one more video. Then let's see, there's one more video. Excuse me. There we go.
Good morning, everyone. We're going into an important discussion this morning on the G5 Sahel. As you know, we're just back from the region as a Security Council, and we certainly, as Ireland, we were very interested while we were in Niger to meet with the G5 to discuss their own sense of the challenges they face, clearly in a very fragile region. And we believe that as a regional initiative, an effort to support particularly the protection of civilians on the ground, really significant initiative. We want to see both that the countries in the region come together themselves, but also that there's a durable and sustainable basis for working. And that's one of the things I'll say this morning in the Council. We've seen a report from the Secretary General looking ahead to how we can make this a more sustainable effort, but it's a much needed effort on the ground, no doubt about that. And as I go in, maybe I'll just take a moment also to say to you on Ethiopia, we're constantly watching developments on the ground. Some hope emerging, particularly with African leadership. A lot of activity this week. President Obasanjo, we know President Kenyatta is active. We also have seen other regional efforts underway. We want to see an immediate ceasefire. We want to see the important humanitarian access restored and a political dialogue launched. We just spoke this morning also to the EU Special Envoy who's back from the region, also hoping that the EU role there will be supportive, and we're very much working with President Obasanjo and his efforts there to make progress. I want to say that we're very concerned about the detention of people in Ethiopia, particularly focused on ethnic groups, and I wanted to underline our real concern about the UN staff who continue to be in detention. We're talking to our Security Council colleagues about that. I think the views are well known that we want to see certainly that the human rights and that the health and well-being of all these staff is assured. And we'll be talking later in the day also to Mr. Griffiths, who has been in the region himself, fully support all the work of the Secretary General and the Director General of OCHA on the humanitarian issues, but also on what I'm sure is a concern, that UN staff on the ground have been detained. We want to see those people freed. Thank you.
So the Ethiopia regime just said UN staff, like if they break the law, they'll be punished. So do you have any comments on that?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
So the Ethiopia regime just said, like, if the staff work for UN or African Union, if they break the law, they're going to punish them. Do you have any comment?
Well, my concern right now is that there are reports about a lot of detention of people based on their ethnicity. There's been a lot of hate speech. We want to see, of course, overall for Ethiopia, a return to stability. This we regard as a worrying situation, and naturally as representative to the UN, I'm particularly concerned about people of any ethnicity who are targeted, and particularly concerned if they were targeted because they're working for the UN. We need to know more about that, and we'll be talking later in the day to Mr. Griffiths. Thank you.
Okay, so that's from UN Security Council briefing, Ireland ambassador at UN, and expressing her concern about ongoing situation in Ethiopia, especially about this ugly conduct of Abiy Ahmed, you know, targeting especially Tigrayans for no crime, but just for being Tigrayans. So that's very bad, and but it's not slowing down. They are still arresting Tigrayans. Those mothers, children, elders, all are the target of Abiy Ahmed at this time. He is using this emergency declaration as an excuse to commit crime, and I hope he will be accounted for in the future. He is also targeting Oromos. Uh, are is very tough, really, very bad, very bad. Ethiopia government acting in such a manner. This is the first time I see people are targeted because of their ethnicity. So this must stop. I hope Obasanjo, the mediator, is going back and forth to Mekele. The Kenyan president is also involved, the UN involved. I hope they will come out with some kind of uh, agreement so that Abiy Ahmed will be accounted for all this bloodshed and for taking the country into this stage. Uh, the first demand should be before any ceasefire, he should agree to step aside and face justice. Him and his advisors, whoever advised him to create such crisis in that country. So he will not be part of the future negotiation or the future of that country. He is lacking leadership. He is creating chaos, anarchy, death, bloodshed in that country. So that should be is a warning. No, not to include Prosperity Party officials, including the Prime Minister. Uh, so we will see, but we're just hoping to end this conflict in a better way, not for advantage for Prosperity Party to stay in power and also create more crisis for that country. Uh, you know, they say they have a public mandate. They don't have any public mandate. They arrested all opposition politicians. They closed opposition politicians' offices, and they ran an election. So that's not a mandate. That's like cheating the global community and cheating Ethiopians, you know. So they don't have any mandate. They are criminals. They are criminals. These are the old parties for war committed crime for the last 27 years under different name. Now they changed the name. They claim their hands are clean. No, they are criminals. They're supposed to be in jail. So I hope Obasanjo and TDF, I hope they will demand the removal of these prosperity officials, start over the dialogue, the reconciliation, uh, for, about the future of Ethiopia with all these individuals in political parties impacted by Abiy Ahmed. So that's the news I just stopped by to share with you. The breaking news about Eritrean sanctions. Uh, if this dialogue is not fruitful, Ethiopia, possibly TDF might also be included in further sanctions. So I will report to you whatever development we have. The other thing is the command center, the East Africa US Command Center is also warning they could involve in Ethiopia if things go for the worst. So that's the warning you see, you heard from the commander. Uh, that's command center. I think maybe in Djibouti or somewhere around area, command center for all East Africa. So that's all I have, and thank you for joining me. And please share, comment, like on my videos. I will be back. Be safe. So long, everyone.